Hello. I am going to be playing some music. Playing as in not me. Actually, I could play some music. Let's do it. Hello. How are you? How are you doing? I was just practicing a little bit this song until someone joined, I guess. Then I was going to listen to music. Well, not listen, but to put some music in the background, maybe while reading some blog posts or something. I don't know. How are you? No, well, I'm living coffee right now. Isn't it night time there? What about you? Yeah, I'm just, I don't know, I was watching videos and decided, fuck it, I have to stream, I guess. And didn't know what to do. I hadn't anything planned. So yeah, tomorrow I'm going to this concert with my mom and my aunt and stuff like that. So yeah, tomorrow is 6th, right? Yes. So I'm going to play the songs from the concert. I don't know. So I not play myself, right? As in this by this. Let's see. Boom. Then these 3 songs. Wait, where is your chat? Here. Oh, sounds cool. What kind of music is there? It's, yeah, classical music, I guess. How long did you grow your hair? It would have taken me 5-10 years, although right now I can't say that it's short. I think 5 years. I haven't cut it since COVID. So I guess 4 years. Something like end of 2019 was the last time I cut my hair. Okay, I'm going to put this song in the background in the meantime. Okay, let's copy all this. Songs. Boop. Okay. And now I can read blog posts, I guess. That's what the title of the stream says, right? I am not lying. How are you guys, by the way? How are you, TY? You were in Finland, right? Yes. I have watched today a video about, from the Finnish girl I mentioned. She uploads pretty often. This one.
¿Cómo estás?
Sini, she's called Sini. And this video is about how to date Finnish women. Interesting video. She was like, yeah, in Finland, guys are not very direct and all that, right? Guys are very subtle, and in Spain they are much more direct and much more conversational or something like that. And he was like, if you are respectful and all this, it's like in there, you will be successful, blah blah blah. I don't know. Interesting video. Okay, back to reading. I wanted to read. I have this. Okay, I'm going to ask you which do you want to read. There is this. Okay, I was based on. I'm going to read this. What is this? What is the point of this site? I don't know mine. I build websites. It's just what I do. One day I woke up and thought, I wish there was a site that had all the writing that I send to people most often all in one place. So yeah, this is a site by Judah. Judah Loop, guy I follow on Twitter, and yeah, he has this place with writing that I thought it was interesting, right? So one of these was career modes. I think I have already read this one, so I don't want to read this one. Young adult fictions. The young adult fictions thing here, it has this. Oh, Hotel Concierge has these titles, right? How to be attractive. I've been looking so long at these pictures of you that I almost confused map and territory. Interesting subtitle, right? And same with young adult fictions. So please take this in the gentlest way possible. You were never that great, right? These seem to be hitting right now. So I thought the titles were interesting. Then, okay, I was looking what Desi things were. This is my channel. Paratisseria, this is a Spanish song. Well, it's in Spanish, but it's from an Italian guy. Okay, all this must be an object. Full stack open. These are videos. Okay, more things that I wanted to read here. I think they were the TLP ones. Yeah, these ones. I don't know, these don't seem so fun. Any ones that catch your eye? Okay, let's start from the top. This is a funny title. A day at the free market. I think this one is also interesting. Okay, let's see. Well, now you remember where each of your audience was from, but wait till you reach 1 million subs or 10k viewers stream. Yeah. Okay, this one ended. The calculus of grit. Does that interest you? Which one is it? Control F. The calculus of grit. Okay, Venkatesh Rao is a good article. Is a good writer. I like him. I've already read the Gervais Principle, right? I've already read this Little Big Idea called Legibility book, and it was very interesting, right? It's a book, maybe an idea that still lives in my mind. Hanyo, yo, hello. I am reading blog posts with background music. Then next is going to be this song. Peteris Vasks music for a summer evening. Six minutes. Let's see this one. No, I prefer the one that was earlier, 7 months ago. This one. Then Enrique Granados quejas a la maja. Y el ruiseñor. Okay, I'm seeing this guy, Thou Monthly Pins, this sexual person. Then Manuel de Falla, Nana J. this one. Okay. Enough music. I think there are like 15 minutes of music. Roman Kopf. Let's see, what did you hire? Okay. Okay. Let's go read the grid calculus thing. The calculus of grid. Let's see if you can see it. Let's make myself small. And lower a little bit the audio, because I'm going to be speaking a little bit lower, I guess. The calculus of grid. I find myself, by Venkatesh Rao. I find myself feeling strangely uncomfortable when people call me a generalist, and imagine that to be a compliment. My standard response is that I am actually an extremely narrow, hidebound specialist. I just look like a generalist because my path happens to cross many boundaries that are meaningful to others, but not to me. If you've been reading this blog for any length of time, you know the degree to which I keep returning to the same few narrow themes. I guess I relate, right? I think I relate to this. I also have in my mind this kind of thing of I am a generalist, but in reality, I do feel like a specialist that is still building his specialty, but it just happens that the specialty is seemingly very like different fields, right? It feels like something yet to coalesce. I don't. It is a feeling, yes, just a feeling, but it is something real that I think. I think I now understand the reason I rejected the generalist label and resonate far more with the specialist label. The generalist-specialist distinction is an extrinsic coordinate system for mapping human potential. This system itself is breaking down, so we have to reconstruct whatever the distinction had in intrinsic terms. When I chart my life course using such intrinsic notions, I end up clearly a reconstructed specialist. Okay, this is interesting to know, like back in 2011, this motherfucker was thinking of these things, right? That's actually pretty powerful, right? And this post from, I guess, 13 years ago is still up. The keys to this reconstruction project are the much abused idea of 10,000 hours of deliberate practice, the notion of grit, and an approach to keeping track of your journey through life in terms of an intrinsic coordinate system. Think of it as replacing compass or GPS extrinsic navigation with accelerometer and gyroscope-based inertial navigation. I call the result the calculus of grit. It is my idea of an inertial navigation system for an age of anomie, where the external world has too little usable structure to navigate by. Interesting, right? This extrinsic coordinate versus internal compass is an interesting thing to think about. Generalist, specialist distinction. I think, I don't know, just based on this small paragraph, right? Something I think about, right? Problems with this. Finding kind of, I guess that is the thing, right? Finding the direction, I don't know, trusting that your internal compass or whatever, trusting your internal compass can be difficult, right? And sometimes it's like you even lose your internal compass. I feel like I am at a bit of that point, in a sense. TY2Y, are you from the royal family? No. Why do you... Why? The question? Which royal family too? The Spanish one or the Japanese one? I mean, no. But which one? Okay, continuing. The generalist-specialist distinction. The generalist-specialist distinction constitutes an extrinsic coordinate system. We think of our environment as containing breadth and depth dimensions. The breadth dimension is chopped up by disciplinary boundaries, whether academic, trade-based, or business domain-based, while the depth dimension is chopped up by markers of validated progressive achievement. Right? So the breadth dimension is chopped up by disciplinary boundaries. So for example, if you are a breadth-based person, if you are a generalist, you will be interested in music, interested in art, interested in blah, 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 interested in cinema, interested in cars, interested in fashion, right? All of those things. Well, the depth dimension is chopped up by markers of validated progressive achievement, right? So it means, for example, you have a degree in fashion, you have a degree in cars, in mechanical engineering, you have a degree in blah, blah, blah. You have 10 years of experience in a consulting job in mechanical engineering. You have made 3 movies, 3 Hollywood movies that have gotten you 3 awards, right? This kind of depth-based progress ladders. What you get is a matrix of domains of endeavor, bounded loci within you, which you can sustain, deepening practice of some skilled behavior. What you get is a matrix of domains of endeavor, bounded loci within which you can sustain deepening practice of some skilled behavior. Okay, yes. So boxes, right? The fashion box, the cinema box, the car box, right? All of these boxes. The boundedness is key. Mathematicians do not suddenly discover in the 10th year of their practice that they need advanced ballroom dancing skills to progress further. Ballroom dancers do not suddenly encounter a need for advanced aircraft engine maintenance skills after a few years of practice. Based on your strengths, you can place fairly safe bets early on about what you will not need to do if you make your home somewhere in the Matrix. You look like a prince. Thank you, I guess. My blood pressure is jumping. Going to take a pill and make coffee. Okay. I mean, the coffee probably heightens the blood pressure, I guess, right? If that helps, doesn't sound like a good combo. Yeah, I think we all seem to agree in that. Or at least you used to be able to. I'll get to how these expectations from the 20th century are bring down. There is a social structure that conforms to these breadth depth boundaries as well. A field of practitioners in each domain, stacked in a totem pole of increasing expertise that legitimizes the work of individuals and provides recognition needed for both pragmatic ends, degrees and such, and existential ends, recognition, in the sense of, say, Hegel. I don't get it, this recognition sense of Hegel, but I guess. Let's ask ChatGPT, let's see. Chat. What does the author mean with that? It feels like my head is being squeezed by Teskey. It's terrible. When an author references recognition in the context of Hegel, there is delving into a concept that's central to Hegel's philosophy, especially within works of phenomenology. Blah, blah, blah. In Hegel's view, recognition, or Anerkennung in German, is a fundamental process through which self-consciousness is achieved. This process involves two consciousnesses acknowledging each other as free and independent beings, yet each is dependent on the other for the affirmation of their self-consciousness. Essentially, it's to this mutual recognition that individuals come to understand themselves as a truly independent beings who are also interconnected with others in a social and ethical world. Holy fuck! This is the ChatGPT explanation. Recognition is not just about acknowledging their existence, it involves a deeper, more profound understanding of the acceptance of the other as an essential part of one's own identity and freedom. This concept is crucial for Hegel's theory of self-consciousness, where the self does not exist in isolation, but is always in relation to other selves. This dynamic interplay of recognition forms the foundation of ethical life and the development of social institutions in Hegel's philosophy. For Hegel, this process, blah, 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 blah. Okay, the struggle to recognition can lead to master-slave dynamics. One, true recognition requires that both see each other as equals in a relationship of mutual respect and acknowledgement. The ethical process. Okay, interesting, I guess. Sorry, what is Teskey? Yeah, I also wonder the same. Okay, let's play this one as well. Let's look up this guy. Let's see what comes up. Okay, where was I? Calculus of grid. I think he's getting coffee, by the way. That's why he's not answering. Or popping a couple of pillies. In his book Creativity, Michael Csikszentmihalyi made up exactly such a definition of extrinsically situated creativity as the behavior of an individual within a field domain metrics. We are now breaking away from this model. Ironically, Csikszentmihalyi's own work makes little sense within this model that he helped describe in codified ways. His work makes a lot more sense if you don't attempt to situate it within his nominal home in psychology. Extrinsically situated creativity with a reference to some global absolute scheme of generalist specialist dimension is unworkable. At best, we can hope for local relative schemes and an idea of intrinsically situated individual lives. The vacuity of multidisciplinarity. The problem with this generalist specialist extrinsically situated creativity model is that the extrinsic frames of references are getting increasingly dynamic, chaotic, and murky, to the point that the distinction is becoming useless. Nobody seems to know which way is up, which way is down, and which way is sideways. If you guess and get lucky, the answers may change next year, leaving you disoriented once more. The usual response to this environment is to invoke notions of multidisciplinarity. Unfortunately, this is worse than useless. In the labor market for skilled capabilities, and particularly in academia, multidisciplinarity is the equivalent of gerrymandering or secession on an already deeply messed up political map. Instead of votes, you are grubbing for easily won markers of accomplishment. Its main purpose, in which it usually fails, is to create a new political balance of power, rather than unleash human potential more effectively. The purpose is rarely to provide a context for previously difficult novice-to-master journeys. How do I know this? It's patently obvious. If it takes 10k hours to acquire mastery in any useful bounded domain, and you assume that there is at least one generation of pioneers who blazed that path to a new kind of mastery, what are you to make of fields that come and go like fruit flies in 2-3 years, in sync with business or funding cycles? The suspicious individual is right to suspect faddishness. And where are you from? Admin, okay, let's see. I'm sorry, it's just that Vice will be like a ski in my language. That didn't help, lol. Well, to help, you need to wait 20 minutes. Sure, take your time. And where are you from? Admin, from Germany. Okay. I have come to the conclusion that if I cannot trace a coherent history of at least 20 years for something that claims the label discipline, it isn't one. Interesting. The problem with this, though, is that increasing amounts of valuable stuff is happening outside disciplines by this definition. Okay, this is interesting, right? For example, I'm not sure if in this time he was thinking of crypto and all that, but he lately has been involved in crypto and all this. And I think crypto does not hold up as a discipline in his definition, right? And he recognizes the interest, for example. It isn't multidisciplinary. It isn't interdisciplinary. It is simply non-disciplinary, right? And I think this is also something that happens in TikTok and all that, right? When people see TikTok and are like consumed by it, by the good parts and the bad parts, right? It's like TikTok is not a discipline, right? That is the problem, right? Same with, I guess YouTube now could be, but it still isn't, right? They are not disciplines. It is a non-disciplinary endeavor. Yeah, it's in the miscellaneous folder, right? It's so fluid that it resists extrinsic organization. It's like Mr. Beast has won YouTube, but he isn't the end all be all of YouTube, you know? He accomplished something unique and strange but that was not kind of in the picture of anything, right? It's non-disciplinary, right? It's not the best YouTube or whatever, right? He calls himself kind of not the best YouTuber, but that was what he was trying to pursue. But he has not pursued YouTube mastery, you could say, right? That is the thing. My god, this paragraph hit hard. The guy straight up mocks, and rightfully so, the entire fast-paced, multidisciplinary market. I don't know. I'm not sure if he mocks. I think he recognizes, right? I don't know. Also depends. I think in this part, yeah, there is a sense of mockery, right? These kind of disciplines that go out in 2-3 years, depending on whether they get funding and all that, that is kind of, I guess, mockery. Okay, so given that most excitement centers around short-lived fruit fly non-disciplines. Okay, so given that most excitement centers around short-lived fruit fly non-disciplines, how do people even manage to log 10,000 deliberate practice hours in any coherent journey to mastery? Can you jump across 3 or 4 fruit fly domains over the course of a decade and still end up with mastery of something? Even if you cannot define it, yes. If you drop extrinsic frames of reference altogether, okay? This is fucking fire, actually, for completely selfish reasons, but I'm paying attention. It's not a proper disciplinary domain yet, haha. YouTube, I guess, right? I still want to learn Japanese, but there just isn't enough time in the day between gaming and being lazy. Right? I think that is a problem with this thing that we are talking about right now. Okay. Can you hear me? A little bit. Yeah, I think you can hear me. Okay. It's like, why does learning Japanese have to be a different thing than being lazy or than gaming, right? It's like just turn the game into Japanese, right? Or I don't know. There are ways to combine things, and there are like, it's like move the compass, move the map from extrinsic. There are several disciplines and center on the compass that you have, right? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. Hold on. What exactly does he mean? Extrinsic frames of reference. I think in this case, with extrinsic frames of reference, he means this. Okay, fuck. He means this. Yeah, what he said here, right? Disciplines, the breadth versus width thing. Sorry. Yeah, the breadth versus depth, right? So breadth here is like a lot of disciplines, for example, English, math, science, blah blah blah, biology, social, blah blah blah, economics, no? And then depth is like, okay, degree, PhD, 10 years of experience, 3 awards, right? This is kind of what he means, I think. So it's like on YouTube, it's like you can't have a degree on YouTube, right? And the things where shit is cooking up, there are no such degrees, right? There is like no such thing. So it's like you have, if you want to keep pursuing the new thing, right? Or if you are interested in the new thing and you pursue 2 or 3 new things, and by the nature of the thing themselves, they go bust. It's like you cannot put yourself in these extrinsic categories of like breadth versus depth, because you never get to depth, right? There is no such sense as mastery in the traditional sense of that extrinsic map. But he's like proposing the opposite thing. Okay, what's happening? You're German, you're capable of anything. What games in German did you get to know? I'm very lazy, really anything. Well, I legit did that, but I didn't learn anything from other rather than memorizing when I need to click. I guess, well. That happens. You had wonderful people who said that the Germans are the best, and I can't disagree with them. I watch a lot of anime, and Germany is sympathetic by this. By the way, now Russia is like Germany 40x. It is very similar, it steals your symbols. Okay. The compass and the gyroscope. We are used to describing movement in terms of x, y, and z coordinates. Oof. With respect to the Greenwich meridian, the equator, and sea level. Our sense of space is almost entirely based on such extrinsic coordinate systems, or landmarks within them. Things that we understand by spatial metaphors naturally tempt us to metaphoric coordinate systems like the depth-breadth one we just talked about. In academic domains, for instance, you could say that the world is mapped with reference to an origin that represents a high school graduate, with disciplinary measures and years of study forming the two axes that define further movement. Somewhere in graduate school, I encountered an idea that blew my mind. You can also describe movement entirely intrinsically. Actually, I had encountered this idea before, in vague popular science treatments of Einstein's general theory of relativity, but learning the basics of the math is what truly blows my mind. Let's check. Okay, this is, I guess, changing Okay, let's see what he has to say. The central idea is not hard to appreciate. Imagine riding in a complicated roller coaster and keeping track of how far along you are on the track, how you've been turning and how you've been twisting. That much is easy. What is not easy is appreciating that's all you need. You can dispense with extrinsic coordinate systems entirely. Just keeping track of how those three variables, known as arc length, curvature, and torsion, if my memory serves me, are changing is enough. For short periods, you can roughly measure them using just your intrinsic sense of time and how your stomach and ears feel. To keep the measurements precise over longer periods, you need a gyroscope, an accelerometer, and a watch. Interesting metaphor, right? Instead of using x-y coordinates, you just measure the vector. These vectors, right? We need another supporting notion before we can construct an intrinsic coordinate system for human lives. Behavioral boundedness. Remember that the primary real value of an extrinsically defined discipline is in a field domain metrics is predictable boundedness. Mathematicians can trust that they won't have to suddenly start dancing halfway through their careers to progress further. This predictability allows you to form reasonable expectations for decades of investment and make decisions based on your upfront assessment of your strengths and expectations about how those strengths will evolve as you age. If I decide that I have certain strengths in mathematics and that I want to bet on those strengths for a decade to get to mastery, I shouldn't suddenly stumble into a serious weakness along the way that blocks me, like an act of natural athleticism. So a disciplinary boundary is very useful if it provides that kind of predictability. I call this behavioral boundedness. An expectation that your expected behaviors in the future won't wander too far out of certain strength-based comfort zones you can guess at fairly accurately upfront before putting 10,000 hours. So a disciplinary boundary is useful if it provides that kind of predictability, right? What happens when that sort of predictability breaks down? It is certainly happening all over the place. For instance, I didn't realize I lacked the strengths needed for a typical career in aerospace engineering. the sort of high school kids fantasize about when they get first interested in airplanes and rockets, until well into a PhD program in the subject. Fortunately, I was able to pivot and head in another direction with almost no wasted effort. Few people are that lucky. I guess I am one of the unlucky ones. There are domains where the boundedness is very weak indeed. The upfront visible boundedness is a complete illusion. Marketing is one such domain. Okay, he is getting into some real shit, I know. You might get into it because you love creating messaging or talking to people. You may discover the idea of positioning 2 years into the journey and realize that creativity in messaging is a sideshow and the real job is somewhat tedious analysis of the mental models of prospects. A further 2 years down the road, you may discover that to level up your game once more, you need to become a serious quantitative analysis ninja and database geek. Interesting. I guess entrepreneurship is also one of these kind of skills, right? This can also work out in positive ways. You might wake up fine one fine day and realize that your life, which makes no sense in nominal terms, actually adds up to expertise in some domain you've never identified with at all. That actually happened to me with respect to marketing. On paper, I am the opposite of a marketer. I have a PhD in aerospace engineering. I am introverted and write in long-winded and opaque ways rather than in catchy soundbites. Nevertheless, at some point, I realized with a shock that I had accidentally logged several thousand hours along a marketing career path without realizing it. I had just completely misunderstood what marketing meant based on the popular image the field presents to novices, right? This is interesting. I think this is, I guess, something really interesting. When I went free agent a few months ago, most of my consulting leads I had coming in had to do with marketing work. This did not surprise me, but it certainly surprised my father and several close friends who assumed I was doing some sort of technical consulting work around computational modeling and scientific computing. Interesting. I'd never thought of myself as a marketer. A computational modeler, yes. A hustler, perhaps. A fairly effective corporate guerrilla, yes. A marketer? Not really. I viewed my previous marketing work as the work of a curious tourist in a strange land. I viewed my marketing rating as outsider anthropology amongst strange creatures, but apparently that's not how others view me. Looking back and trying to make sense of my life in retrospect as the training of an accidental marketer, it makes sense though. I've logged the right mix of complementary experiences. Marketing is still not my primary identity though. That would mean returning to a Procrustean bed of disciplinary identity. Many people luck out like me accidentally. We recognize what particular path to mastery we're on long after we actually get on it. Many do not. They bum around in angsty agony, craving structure where none exists, and realizing after a decade of wondering that they've unfortunately gotten nowhere. Oh, maybe this is me. Is it possible to systematically do things to put yourself on a path to mastery and know you're on one without actually knowing what that path is until you're already far down it? In Germany, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. Are you a girl, boy? He would have taken with me, played with the Führer and the Russian partisan. I am a guy, I don't quite get the rest of the sentence. Yeah, I don't get it either. What's with the partisan and the Führer thing? I don't. Inside and outside views of grit. If there is no external frame of reference, how do you know where you are going, and whether you are progressing at all, as opposed to bumming around? Can you log any old-time sheet of 10,000 hours, slap a label on it, and claim mastery? That's what I was wishing for. Thankfully, intrinsic navigation is not quite that trait. A clue to the mystery is the personality trait known as grit, possibly the best predictor of success in the modern world. I don't know. I think I have grit in a sense, but I'm not sure if it's valued anywhere. Grit is the enduring intrinsic quality that for a brief period in written history was coincident with the pattern of behavior known as progressive disciplinary specialization. Grit has external connotations of extreme toughness, a high apparent threshold for pain, and an ability to keep picking yourself up after getting knocked down. From the outside, grit looks like the bloody-minded exercise of extreme willpower. It looks like a superpower. I used to believe this understanding of grit as a superhuman trait. I used to think I didn't possess it. Yet, people seem to think I exhibit in some departments, like reading and writing. They are aghast at the amount of reading I do. They wonder how can I keep churning out thousands of words, week after week, year after year, with no guarantee that any particular piece of writing will be well received. I think I have grit in that sense, right? In my YouTube sense, or in my streaming sense. They think I must possess superhuman willpower, because they make a very simple projection error. They think it is hard for me because it would be hard for them. Well, of course, things are going to take superhuman willpower if you go after them with the wrong strengths. For a while, I went around calling this faux grit, the appearance of toughness. But the more I looked around me at other people who seemed to display grit in other domain, the more I realized that it wasn't hard for them either. What they did would merely be superhuman effort for me. Faux grit and true grit are the same thing. The movie True Grit is actually quite a decent showcase of the trait. It showcases the superhuman outside, fluid inside phenomenon quite well. Okay, let's look this movie up. True Grit. Bro, what the fuck is going on in the chat? I'm just here learning mind-blowing insights and you guys are talking about pigs or what? Well, like role-playing games, you would shout shrine, shrine, and I would bow down at your feet. Lol, that's a bit extreme. I don't know anything like that. I don't get it. Und es stellte sich heraus, dass sie zum Beispiel bisexuell sind und im Geheimen wurden. I don't understand everything. Oops. Fuck. Bro, you're writing fanfiction. So, what does the inside view of grit look like? I took a shot at describing the subjective feel in my last post on the Tempo blog. Okay, I'll read this later. It simply feels like mindful learning across a series of increasingly demanding episodes that build on the same strengths. Then maybe I don't have grit. But the subjective feel of grit is not my concern. Oh, calor. So, why am I so? It simply feels like mindful learning, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but I am interested in the objective, intrinsically measurable aspects of grit that can serve as an internal inertial navigation system, a gyroscope rather than GPS. Okay, this is interesting. The grit gyroscope, reworking, referencing, releasing. In physical space, latitude, longitude, altitude get replaced by arc length, curvature and torsion when you go intrinsic. Yeah, this is something like what he showed here, right? Curvature, torsion, and arc length. Arc length would be kind of the amount traveled. In Endeavor space, field, domain, and years of experience get replaced by three variables that lend themselves to a convenient new 3Rs acronym. Reworking, referencing, releasing. Well, technically it is internal referencing and early and frequent releasing, but I skip the phrasing short and alliterative. I believe the new 3Rs are as important to adults as the old ones. Reading, writing, and arithmetic are for kids. Reworking. I stumbled upon rework as a key variable when I tried to answer a question on Quora. What are some tips for advanced writers? Since writing is something everybody does, logging 10,000 writing hours is something anyone can do. My aha moment came when I realized that it isn't the writing hours that count. It is the rewriting hours. Everybody writes. People who are trying to walk the path towards mastery, rewrite. I won't say more about this variable. If you want a work example, read my core answer. If you want a quick and pleasant thread on the subject, Jason Fried's rework gets us some of the essential themes, though perhaps in a slightly gimmicky way. Let's see his answer. It's possible, look, even if you choose a domain accidentally, that you realize you don't identify with it after putting 1000 hours in. As long as you've decided to master the domain, it shouldn't matter. And I realized right at the moment I wrote this. He's saying the same thing in terms of willpower, Lemao. Okay, I just published a book and a friend, another book writer privately complimented on the poetic grace of my book. So, the comment made my day, so I'll take that as my claim to being a medium advanced writer. But though I will offer some science tips, I will never offer a writing class. Why? Because I am not trying to develop writing skills. I am trying to develop thinking skills. The two are the same in beginner stage, but differ in the advanced stage, even though the medium remains the same for words. So the first advanced writing skill is to recognize your natural talents and choose to either go with or against your grain. Do you want to be a writer or a thinker? One lifetime normally isn't enough to be both. Writer versus thinkers. You have to choose. The divide between thinkers and writers is more important than one between fiction and non-fiction writers. You could divide the world of advanced writers into 2 by 2 based on whether they are prioritizing developing their thinking or their writing, or whether they are focusing on fiction and non-fiction. My hypothesis, I haven't gotten to a stage where I can check this, is that it is easier to cross the fiction-non-fiction divide than it is easier to cross the writing first, thinking first divide. J.K. Rowling is a thinking first fiction writer. David Foster Wallace was a writing first fiction writer. I'm a decent thinking first non-fiction writer. I'd say Mark Levinson, author of The Box, is a good example of a really good thinking first non-fiction writer. My fourth quadrant is rather empty, since there aren't many writing first non-fiction writers. Many academic analytical philosophers qualify, but their writing is not generally read by ordinary people. I think I could pull off a decent pastiche of JKR, many people can and have, though I primarily write non-fiction. But I have no hope in hell of ever getting to even 10% of DFW's skill as a writer. I'll explain why in a bit. But as a thinker, based on his non-fiction pieces, I think I already may be better than him in some ways, which isn't saying much, since as a thinker he was not very good actually. Many bloggers think better than him. How good are you? The first skill you need to develop as an advanced writer is the ability to accurately measure how good you are and how fast you are getting better. Readers' comments help you measure the popularity of the things you write about, but aren't much help in understanding your own skill levels, since they are simply not sensitive to rating skill beyond a certain level. They can tell beer apart from wine, but cannot tell varieties of wine apart. Sounds nutty, but it is true. If I gave a reader 2 of my sentences, one that I just shoot off without much thought, and another that I rewrote 100 times to get just right, most of them wouldn't be able to tell, but other serious writers can easily tell. And actually only writers can tell, not even very good editors who don't themselves write can tell. It's because your measurement systems themselves improve mainly with writing. Reading alone won't do. First, you have to triangulate your skill from 2 directions. First, you have to sensitize yourself to good writing. Studies show that artists look at art completely differently compared to non-artists. Eyeball trackers show them looking at different things. This is what it means to see like an artist. It's harder to measure, but writers read differently. The best exploration of, and the instruction manual for, reading like a writer is The Book of That Name by Francine Prose. If you are a serious writer, buy and read that book now. The second thing you have to do is learn to assess your own progress. Having other writers react to your work is part of it, but since writers outside genres have different interests, this is a limited value. You need to develop an inner sense of how good you are. This is hard because one of the things that happens as you evolve as a writer is that you increasingly become blind to your own style, or that you even have a style. To others it may be obvious that you overuse certain words, for example. It will not be obvious to you. so you need an indirect and objective measure. The secret lies in a single word I have already used. Any guesses to which one? Now I know that it's rewrite, but... Okay, no idea what's going on. I'm going to keep reading. Counting to 10,000 hours. Writing is a skill like any other, blah, blah, blah. A prolific writer can usually churn out about 1,000 reasonable decent words in an hour, or so if you count in the words, it might seem like 10 million words would be enough, or at 4 hours a day, 250 days a year, about 10 years. The problem is everybody writes. Yes, things like email count, so any idiot can clock that many words in 10 years, even if they only do a lot of casual work email testing. You don't even need to throw up verbal puke in a journal blog regularly, like many horrible wannabe writers do. What matters is not how much you write, but how much you rewrite. Rewrite is the magic word. Actually, it is my shorthand for read aloud and rewrite. Reading aloud vastly increases the effectiveness of your rewriting. And rewrite hours are far harder to log, as you will see if you try an exercise I will suggest in a minute. The huge difference between everyday writing that everybody does and serious writing is the portion that is rewriting. I estimate that for non-writers, rewriting accounts for maybe 10-20% of their writing. For serious writers, it accounts for anywhere between 50-90% depending on how critical the particular piece is. This core answer is not very critical for me, so I'd say it will hit 50% by the time I'm done. There are single paragraphs in my book that took 5 minutes to write down initially, but then cost me hours to whip into shape, so that's like 99% rewriting. For my for-pay work, I probably average about 75%. For my own blog, I am erratic. Some pieces hit book like 99%, other pieces at a 70%. I don't think I've ever hit more than 65% on Quora. People often ask me how am I so prolific. To be blunt, that's so easy for me. It is not much harder than breathing. But rewriting is hard. It is torture. Since one measure of rewriting progress is words eliminated, I often joke that I write for free, but I charge for eliminating words. But rewriting is the only kind of writing that counts. If you aren't rewriting, you aren't developing as a writer. This is interesting to hear. I think it makes sense for YouTube videos as well, right? I have made a 100 video series, but I think the difficult part of the 100 video series is redoing the 100 videos, right? So I think I will have to redo them. And now this has convinced me, I would say. I'm partly as lost as you. It's funny how different the stream and chat is at the moment. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool. For the moment, it's cool. When we are 3 people, I don't mind. I mean, it hurts that you are not listening to me, but I don't mind at all. Well, at all, not. I don't really mind. When you hit 10,000 hours of rewriting, you will be a skilled writer or a skilled thinker within the written world. If you want to be both, it will take you 20,000 hours. Like I said, one lifetime normally isn't enough. That's why so few people make it past that bar. Shakespeare is one of them. If you never understood why writers especially revere him, this is why. You need to spend 2,000, 3,000 hours merely to appreciate how spectacularly good he was at both. In fact, one of my litmus tests for whether you have advanced writing skills is whether you can write an interesting and original personal essay discussing why you like 4 or 5 of your favorite Shakespeare verses. An example of a modern writer who achieves a Shakespeare-like writing-thinking balance is Paul Graham. I'd rate him at 1 milli Shakespeare. Most people can't be measured on that scale because they are not balanced biathletes. Back on Earth, there are 2 kinds of rewrites. Rewrites that help you become a better thinker and rewrites that help you become a better writer. How good of a rewriter are you? First, try a little test to see if you can rewrite at all. Take a good passage of about 1,000 words that you've written and are reasonably happy with and have at it. Start rewriting. Keep going until you are down to thinking about one last teeny decision, like a specific word choice or a decision about whether or not to remove a comment. Be as OCD about it as you can be. How long did it take you to get there? If you hit comma level diminishing marginal improvements in less than 4 or 5 hours, you are not an advanced writer. Assuming you do care about your skills and blah blah blah, you can sustain 4 or 5 hours of rewriting. Remember, this is about 5,000 words of first dump writing. It means you can't see potential areas for improvements and or don't know how to execute those improvements. I hope I help you to prove yourself that writing is not tedious, brainless grunt work. It's actually what I call first dump writing, that is tedious, brainless grunt work. Though as you improve, your first dump quality will improve as well, and eventually you will be able to hit magazine quality at first dump. And on occasion, serious inspiration will strike and a piece of writing will be born. First dump perfect. It's 70% wisdom, 30% yapping. Maybe 65-35. No, I changed my mind, 60-40. I don't know, I like it. Where was I? Okay. Writing takes skill. If you merely schedule 5 hours to do rewriting work on a 1,000 word piece, and you don't have the skills to fill those 5 hours, you cannot lock them. When you are starting out on your 10,000 hours, blah, 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 you will only initially achieve about 10% rewriting. As you improve, so will your rewrite capacity. I estimate that it will take a serious writer about 20 years to hit 10,000 rewrite hours at an average pace. If you start at age 13, a typical age for discovering a love for writing, and go like crazy, you could be a skilled writer, word thinker in 10 years. So yeah, you can arrive as young as age 23. I guess age 36 is not bad to be a decent writer, I guess. The two types of rewrites. If you actually tried the exercise, you probably noticed, blah, 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 that some of your writing was about the ideas, including excluding ideas, compressing them, clarifying them, and some of it was about the language, word choice, sentence structure, paragraph breaks. The first kind is thinker rewrites. It's about the accuracy of the content with respect to the pre-verbal ideas you are trying to capture. The second kind is writer rewrites. It's about the precision with which you express the ideas. At the level of typing, you cannot tease them apart. It's a subconscious mix. But at the deliberate learning level, you can. To become a better word thinker, you have to constantly be reading like a writer, in the sense of Francine prose, about more complicated ideas from different domains and even other media. Programming and math can help, as can visual thinking. You should constantly be picking up intellectual tricks, clever metaphors and frames, interesting ways of solving dichotomies, subtle rhetorical devices, things like that. I won't say more about thinking rewrites, since this question isn't about becoming a better word thinker. My book is about that, hint hint. So let me elaborate on what I've seen of the path I have not taken, to the extent that I can see ahead from the fork in the road. Say writing one more time. Writer rewrites. To become a better writer, you have to read people with a much better ear for language itself. The range of suitable input material is much narrower. You may pick up on some decent thinking tricks even from a bad writer thinker like Thomas Friedman. His success is more due to his boundless energy and enthusiasm, but you will pick up no writing tricks. Great fiction, poetry, and some precise kinds of philosophical writing are what you need to consume. Screenplays and plays are great too. The key here is that all these types of writing impose several constraints and form, so it makes sense to work with these types. You have to improve your formal precision with language. There are two main sub-skills: semantic precision and grammatical precision. Semantic precision is easiest to see at the word level. When I read a DFW passage, it is like looking at a pinprick sharp photograph compared to my own blurry photographs. He unerringly picks words to use that simply work 1100x better than my choices. It's like he has a 15 megapixel camera and a tripod, while I am using a 3 megapixel point and shoot. A bigger vocabulary isn't enough. The skill lies in matching words to needs. In fact, his language is so precise that it makes his writing almost too rich to read. I've never finished any of his novels because they are too rich for me. My brain can't handle it. Interesting take. And this isn't just at the word level. His sentences, paragraphs, and chapters are massively precise as well. James Joyce is another example. His prose has been described as having the precision of poetry, an amazing feat, given that typical poetry is generally 100x more precise than typical good prose, and Ulysses is huge. Grammatical precision isn't about knowing the rules. It is about knowing what to do where there are no rules. It is an instinctive sense of evolutionary direction in your chosen language and being ahead of the curve with respect to the grammar Nazis. They codify, legitimize, and enforce the rules you make up. Great writers don't just push the boundaries of language and get away with it. They actually move language itself and create and destroy jobs in the grammar Nazi labor market. Banger. I'll stop there. I haven't likely directly answered the question because tips aren't really what help an advanced level. That is like giving a man fish when what is needed is a lesson in fishing. Hopefully, this served that purpose. Happy rewrites. Holy shit, I'm tired of reading. Okay, interesting. Now that we know a little bit about reworking, rewriting, etc., we can learn about the next thing, referencing. For referencing, my clue was my recent discovery that new readers of this blog often dive deep into the archives and read nearly everything I've written in the last 4 years. I dubbed it the Ribbon Farm Absurdity Marathon because I didn't understand what would possess anyone to undertake it. But then I realized that I write in ways that practically demand this kind of this reading behavior if people really want to get the most value of what I'm talking about. I references my own previous posts a lot, not to tempt people into reading later related contexts, but out of sheer laziness. I don't like repeating arguments, definitions, or key ideas, so I backlink. I do like most of my posts to be standalone and comprehensible to a new reader, so I try to write in such a way that you can get value of reading a post by itself, but significantly more value if you've read what I've written before. For example, merely knowing what I mean by the word legibility, which I use a lot, can increase what you get out of my posts by 50%. This is one reason why blogging is such a natural medium for me. The possibilities of hyperlinking make it easy to do what would be extremely tedious with paper publishing. Yeah, I think what you mentioned before of 70% wisdom, 30% yapping, maybe 60-40, I think the 40% that you perceive as yapping is due to this, to his style of writing being like this. I think if you've read his stuff before, you start to linking more things, right? And you no longer perceive some things as just yapping, and you see the connections, I think. What is your temperature now? I have 0 degrees, maybe even colder. I don't know. Let's check. Temperature. Around 20. 18 degrees. But in my room, because for some reason heating is on, it's more hot. I opened the window, though. Okay. This is one reason why blogging is such a natural medium for me. The possibilities of hyperlinking make it easy to do what would be extremely tedious with paper publishing. The key here is internal referencing. I use far fewer external reference points. There is perhaps a dozen key text and dozen papers that I reference all the time. It sounds narcissistic, but if you're not referencing your work at least 10 times as often as you're referencing others, you're in trouble in the intrinsic navigation world. Instead of developing your own internal momentum and inertia, you are being buffeted by external forces like a grain of pollen being subjected to the forces of Brownian motion. I think this situates me relatively well, because I think I reference my own videos relatively often, but I think maybe not 10 times as often as I reference others, so maybe it's not looking that good for me. I'm in the northwest right now. I'm also at 18 at the moment, but it's supposed to be sunny next week, so it'll pass probably. It's not really freezing here, but there are snows and the temperature drops -10. Crazy. Where are you, Finland? Northwest. Oulu. Are you in Oulu? -2. Kemi. -2. Rovaniemi. -3. The place you said the other day, Lappeenranta, -3 also. I want to go to Kuopio because the girl mentioned it, the girl from the video I mentioned before. This girl, she said that Kuopio is a nice city, that people are nice there. Minus 3 degrees though. Fuck. Tampere. The whole country is minus 3 degrees, man. Yeah, the southernmost point of Finland is actually even more north than Stockholm. Kinda crazy. A friend of mine is from Mexico and he was freezing at 5 degrees. Yeah, when I was in Germany, I came to Germany in February. No, in March, 1st of March. And it snowed. And my friends, the people I met from Mexico there were like, whoa, this is the first time we see snow in our lives. And they were like super excited to kind of play with the snow and all that. It was interesting. Now minus 3, thanks for watching. What city are you from? Are you from Oulu, actually? Or from Diaz, please? Okay, let's continue with the blog post. Releasing, and finally releasing, as in the agile software dictum of release early and often. In blogging, frequency isn't about bug fixing or collaboration. It isn't about market testing. None of my posts are extremely explicitly engineering to test hypotheses about what kind of grading we do well. It's purely about rational gambling in the dollar cost average sensing. It is the investing advice. Don't try to time the market applied to your personal work. This is super interesting. I guess this is why I am streaming, right? I think my way of doing this has become streaming. If the environment is so murky and chaotic that you cannot strategically figure out clever moves and timing, the next best thing you can do is to just periodically release bits of your developing work in the form of gambles in the external world. I think there's a justifiable leap of faith here. If your work admits significant reworking and internal referencing, you're probably onto something that is of value to others. If a post happens to say the right thing at the right time, it will go viral. If not, it won't. All I need to do is to keep releasing. This realization, incidentally, has changed my understanding of phenomena like iteration in lean startups and serial entrepreneurs who succeed on their fifth attempt. It's mostly about averaging across risk-opportunity exposure events in an environment that you cannot model well. I'm pretty sure you can apply this model beyond blogging and entrepreneurship, but I leave you to figure it out. Yeah, I think my take on this I don't know what my take on this is, honestly. Something YouTube related, I guess. Posting videos, I guess that's... The problem is that I think it's just you just need one video to be the right thing at the right time. In order for it to make a significant impact to your life, right? These three variables together can measure your progress along any path to mastery. What's more, they can be measured intrinsically, without reference to any external map of disciplinary boundaries. All you have to do is look for an area in your life where a lot of rework is naturally happening, maintain an adequate density of internal referencing to your own past work in that area, and release often enough that you forget about timing the market for your output. I think this is super fire shit. This paragraph is mega fire. What does navigating these three variables look like from the outside? If you only do a lot of internal referencing, that's like marching along a straight level road. If you do a lot of internal referencing and a lot of rework, that's like marching along a steady uphill road that's gradually getting steeper from an external point of view. In other words, you are on your own exponential path to progress. What you are doing will look impossible to observers. It may look like you are marching up a vertical cliff. A great example is the Silicon Valley archetype of the technics engineer. And finally, if you are releasing frequently, that it's like turning and twisting, spiraling around in an increasingly steep mountain, or zigzagging up via a series of set shiftbacks. The path of least resistance. Navigating with the 3 R's as an adult isn't enough. You still have to recover the value the old disciplinary model provided, behavioral boundedness. Whether you are navigating intrinsically or extrinsically, suddenly running into a mountain, a major weakness is just as bad. The key here is very simple and very Sun Tzu. With respect to the external world, take the path of least resistance. Why? Think of it this way. The disciplinary world very coarsely measured your aptitudes and strengths once in your lifetime and pointed you in a roughly right direction and said, go. The external environment had been turned into a giant obstacle course designed around the coarse global mapping of everybody's strengths. So there was no distinction between the map of the external world you were navigating and the map of your internal strengths. The two had been arranged to synchronize. If you'd navigated through a map of external achievement, landmarks, and honors, you'd automatically be navigating safely through the landscape of your internal strengths. But when you cannot trust that you've been pointed in the right direction in a landscape designed around your strengths, you cannot afford to navigate based on one-time course mapping of your own strengths at age 18. If you run into an obstacle, it is far more likely that it represents a weakness rather than a meaningful real-world challenge to be overcome as a learning experience. So don't try to go over or through. It makes far more sense to go around. Hack and work around. Don't persevere out of a foolhardy superhuman sense of value. I think this is what I am doing with these kind of maps towards what I'm doing with video editing, for example. To me, video editing is hard in that sense, right? It feels more like this obstacle than a thing to persevere or whatever. Maybe I am mistaken though. I really want to go to the sauna, take dried fish with me, and you can have beer and grass, but it probably isn't very suitable in the sauna. What kind of grass do you mean? The devil's grass. Hard equals wrong. If it isn't crystal clear, I am advocating the view that if you find what you are doing ridiculously hard for you, it is the wrong thing for you to be doing. I maintain that you should not have to work significantly harder or faster to succeed today than you had to 50 years ago. A little harder, perhaps. Mainly, you just have to drop external frames of reference and try and trust your internal navigation on landscape of your own strengths. It may look like superhuman grit to an outsider, but it feels like that inside of you, you're doing something wrong. This is a very contrarian position to take today. Thomas Friedman in particular has been beating the harder is better drum for a theory, blah, blah, blah. Why now? It starts with the fact that globalization and the information technology, blah, blah, blah. This is the single most important trend in the world today, and it is a critical reason why to get into the middle class now you have to study harder, work smarter, and adapt quicker than ever before. All this technology and globalization are eliminating more and more routine work, the sort of work that once sustained a lot of middle class lifestyles. The environment that really matters isn't the external world. It is pretty much pure noise. You can easily find and process the subset that is meaningful for your life. It isn't about harder, smarter, faster. If it were, I'd be dead. I've been getting lazier, dumber, and slower. It's called aging. I think Friedman is going to run out of superlatively hyper before I run out of life. The world, if I am wrong, the world is going to collapse before he gets around to writing the world is hyper-flatterer. Humans are simply not as capable as Friedman's survival formula requires them to be. Exhortation is pointless. Humans don't suddenly become superhuman just because the environment suddenly seems to demand superhuman behavior for survival. Those who attempt this kill themselves just as surely as those dumb kids who watch a Superman movie and jump off buildings hoping to fly. It is the landscape of your own strengths that matters, and you can set your own completely human pace through it. The only new behavior you need is increased introspection. And yes, this will advantage some people over others. To avoid running faster and faster until you die of exhaustion, You need to develop an increasingly refined understanding of the landscape as you progress. You twist and turn as you walk, not run, primarily to find the path of least resistance on the landscape of your strengths. The only truly new belief you need is that the landscape of disciplinary endeavors and achievement is meaningless. If you are too attached to degrees, medals, prizes, prestigious titles, and other extrinsic matters of progress in your life, you might as well give up now. With 90% probability you aren't going to make it. It's simple math. Even if they were worth it, as your friend Friedman notes with his characteristic scaremongering, there simply isn't enough to go around. Think of what the Times reported last February. At Little Greener College in rural Iowa, with 1,600 students, nearly 1 of every 10 applicants being considered for the class of 2015 is from China. The article noted that dozens of other American colleges and universities are seeing a similar surge as well, and the article added this fact: half the applicants of China this year have perfect scores on the 800 of the math portion of the ACT. If you're paying attention to the Chinese kids who score a perfect 800, you're paying attention to the wrong people. I mean, really? You should be worried about some Chinese kids terrorized into achieving a perfect 800 math score by some tiger mom and applying to Grinnell College? It's the Chinese kids who are rebelling against their tiger moms, completely ignoring the SAT and flowing down the path of least resistance that you should be worried about. After all, Sun Tzu invented that whole idea. Interesting. So, rework, reference, release. Flow through the landscape of your own strengths and weaknesses. Count to 10,000 rework hours as you walk. If you aren't seeing accelerating results external by hour 3300, stop and introspect. That is the calculus of grit. It's the exponential human psychology you need for exponential times. Ignore everything else. This entire 4,000 plus article is a working out of a 21-word footnote on page 89 of Tempo. That's how internally referenced my rating has become. Never say I don't eat my own dog food. Grass, yes, it's easier to take grass in Europe, but in America there are already stalls with it. Well, yes, listen, if you interpret it in English, then maybe it's not right. Scorro, I am, by the way, still listening if the way you don't really talk about it in chat, but I don't really know what to say about what you're reading. Yeah, I don't mind. Interpretation in other languages is quite visible. I'll link the posts here if you want to actually read them later with this distraction or whatever. Read. What the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? I am trying to write, but see? The calculus of grit. Okay, that was the thumbnail, by the way. Yeah, I think it has something to do with my keyboard and all this. I understand and I'm very interested. You're just too bunny boy. You mean me or him? Just too bunny boy. Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that. I had that waiting problem before too. I don't know how to fix it. Yeah, I think it's just... no idea. Okay, I'm closing stream now. Thank you for being here and for watching me read a blog. If I don't have anything to say, I will read interesting things that other people have said. So I think that's even better, I guess. See ya. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow. I will probably read... okay, maybe tomorrow I am not here. Tomorrow maybe I'm not here. I don't know. I think I am, but I'm not sure. Because I am going to this concert I mentioned here of the classical music, right? So... but I think I eat at my own house. So I don't think I will miss a stream. But maybe I miss it. I will put a community... I don't think I will put a community note if I miss it. That's the problem. But, yeah. But yeah, bye-bye.